special show for you tonight. The President of the United States will be out in just a minute. Very pleased to have Barack Obama on the show tonight. And also, she has been a leading voice in music for over 5 decades. Patti LaBelle will perform. It's a big show tonight. All right. I can't think of any greater honor as host of this show. This is just incredible to me that he's coming here tonight. Please welcome my first guest, my only guest, the 44th President of the United States, Barack Obama.
It's good to be back.
Well, we're thrilled to have you.
It is good to be back.
And a happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Thank you.
How did you celebrate Sunday? What'd you do?
Had a bunch of friends come over who I don't see that often from high school and college.
Right.
And we played a little golf, and then we tried to play a little basketball, and it was a sad state of affairs.
Really?
Yeah. A bunch of old guys, and after, and where's the ibuprofen and all that stuff?
Yeah, but you're pretty competitive.
I am pretty competitive, but you know, the day of my birthday, we do departure photos of people who are transitioning out of the White House, and we let them bring their families in. They take a picture in the Oval Office, and this wonderful staff person came in, had a really cute young son. He looked like Harry Potter. 6-year-old guy. Came in, he had an economic report for me, he had graphs and everything. He says, you know, my birthday is in August too. I said, well, how old are you going to be? He said, 7. He said, how old are you? I said, 52. He said, whoa. Whoa. He was trying to, you know, he looked off in the distance. He was trying to project.
You can't even.
What does that? You can't go out that far.
Can't grasp that number.
No.
Now, I've seen Michelle tease you about your gray hair, a bit of silver in your hair. Do you tease back?
No.
No. You know.
No.
See,
That's why we're celebrating our 21st.
Yes, that's right. That's as a married 33 years, I know exactly what you're saying. Hey, I got to ask you about this. Everyone is concerned about these embassy closings. How significant is this threat?
Well, it's significant enough that we're taking every precaution. We had already done a lot to bolster embassy security around the world, but especially in the Middle East, North Africa, where the threats tend to be highest. And whenever we see a threat stream that we think is specific enough that we can take some specific precautions within a certain time frame, then we do so. Now, you know, it's a reminder that for all the progress we've made, getting bin Laden, putting Al-Qaeda between Afghanistan and Pakistan back on its heels, that, you know, this radical, violent extremism is still out there, and we've got to stay on top of it. It's also a reminder of how courageous our embassy personnel tend to be, because you can never have 100% security in some of these places.
Sure.
You know, the countries themselves sometimes are ill-equipped to provide the kind of security that you want. Even if we reinforce it, there's still vulnerabilities. And these diplomats, they go out there and they serve every day. Oftentimes they have their families with them. They do an incredible job, and sometimes don't get enough credit. So we're grateful to them, and we got to do everything we can to protect them.
Now, this global travel warning, this is for Americans all around the world. Are we telling people, don't take that European vacation just yet, or what are we saying?
No, I think that the general rule is just show some common sense and some caution. So there are some countries where you're less likely to experience a terrorist attack. There's some where they're more dangerous. And you know, if people are paying attention, checking with the State Department or embassy, going on the website before you travel, find out what kind of precautions you should be taking, then I think it still makes sense for people to take vacations. They just have to make sure that they're doing so in a prudent way.
What do you say to those cynics who go, "Oh, this is an overreaction to Benghazi," and how do you respond to that?
You know, one thing I've tried to do as president is not overreact. You know, but make sure that as much as possible the American people understand that there are genuine risks out there. You know, what's great about what we've seen with America over the last several years is how resilient we are. So after the Boston bombing, for example, the next day, folks are out there. They're going to ball games. They are, making sure that we're not reacting in a way that somehow shuts us down.
Right.
And that's the right reaction. Terrorists depend on the idea that we're going to be terrorized, and we're going to live our lives, and the odds of people dying in a terrorist attack obviously are still a lot lower than in a car accident, unfortunately. But there are things that we can do to make sure that we're keeping the pressure on these networks that would try to injure Americans. And the first thing I think about when I wake up and the last thing I think about when I go to bed is making sure that I'm doing everything I can to keep Americans safe.
Safe to say that. Safe to say that we learned about these threats through the NSA intelligence program. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, this intelligence gathering that we do is a critical component of counterterrorism. And obviously with Mr. Snowden and the disclosures of classified information, it's raised a lot of questions for people. But what I said as soon as it happened, I continue to believe in, which is a lot of these programs were put in place before I came in. I had some skepticism, and I think we should have a healthy skepticism about what government's doing. I had the programs reviewed. We put in some additional safeguards to make sure that there's federal court oversight as well as congressional oversight, that there is no spying on Americans. We don't have a domestic spying program. What we do have are some mechanisms where we can track a phone number or an email address that we know is connected to some sort of terrorist threat. And, that information is useful. But, what I've said before, I want to make sure I repeat. And that is, we should be skeptical about the potential encroachments on privacy. None of the revelations show that government has actually abused these powers, but they're pretty significant powers. And I've been talking to Congress and civil libertarians and others about, are there additional ways that we can make sure that people know nobody's listening to your phone call, but we do want to make sure that after a Boston bombing, for example, we've got the phone numbers of those two brothers.
Right.
We want to be able to make sure, did they call anybody else? Are there networks in New York? Are there networks elsewhere that we have to roll up? And if we can make sure that there's confidence on the part of the American people that there's oversight, then I think we can make sure that we're properly balancing our liberty and our security.
When we come back, I want to ask you about Russia and Snowden. I hit on something in the monologue which just seems incredible to me, and I want to get your thoughts on that. More with the president when we come back with it.